Okay. Is everybody ready for the last chapter of Wano? Well, you're gonna be waiting a while longer yet, because this isn't it! Chapter 1053, titled, The New Yonko! Yeah, okay, so, I guess it was a little bit, expeditious to think that, was that a word that was the correct use in that sentence? I don't know. For Oda to just end Wano right here. I assumed he was going to, because the way Kabuki plays usually end are very quick. So I thought, like, oh, okay, only like 3 chapters to, like, do the post-Wano arc after the battle, and then we move on. But that's clearly not the case, and I actually am happy about that, because there's still a lot of stuff I think we need to be covering in Wano. The biggest thing that I want to be seen is the whole Ryuma Zoro going to, like, his grave and everything like that. I want to see that. And I guess it makes sense, because even though Oda is going on break, it's not like he's gonna speed it up. Like, well, I'm going on break in July, which means I have to hurry up and wrap up Wano, so I'm gonna have to cut some things. I'm glad he didn't do that, because, I think we've all seen mangakas be rushed before, and in this instance, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like, you know what, I'm gonna put out the chapters that I put out, and then I'm gonna go on break, and then when I get back, I will resume where I left off, and that seems to be the situation, and that's great. Even so, we probably don't have, like, too terribly long of Wano left, but the arc does not end in this chapter, alright? It actually sets up some really big stuff on what's gonna happen next. So, yeah, let's dive right into this and see. There is no Germa cover series this week, however, we do have One Piece on the cover of Shonen Jump. That's pretty cool. We have Luffy and Uta side by side to promote the new One Piece movie, Film Red, that's coming out in August. So that'll be pretty much like as soon as One Piece resumes serialization in Jump, boom, the movie's gonna be out, okay? I can't wait to see it. I'm sure it's gonna be very hype. That's pretty cool. It's on the cover. Oh, by the way, unrelated, but go check out a new manga called Akane Banashi. It's only up to like 15, 16 chapters so far. It's really good. Just go check that out. Just a Tekking recommendation. The cover spread, I was a little bit thrown back at it at first because I looked at the cover spread with no context, and so there's just new characters just there drawn by Oda, and I'm just like, whoa, what is this? There's one character that has like a bob sort of haircut that looks like Uma Thurman's character from Pulp Fiction, and I was just like, it was like a One Piece Pulp Fiction crossover. Last thing in the world I expected, but I'm okay with that because that's like my favorite movie of all time. Who would play Travolta? I don't know. Anyway, but no, this is an advertisement for the new One Piece video game that's coming out, One Piece Odyssey, which I saw the trailer for and I thought it looked pretty cool, and I was like, yeah, I might actually play this because I haven't played a lot of One Piece video games before, and there was a lot of other criticisms about the graphics and everything, but I don't know. I might actually try this one out. Who knows? So there's some new characters there that are probably going to show up in the game. I don't know what their names are, but yeah, they're there hanging out with the Straw Hats. Okay, but of course, in a title of a chapter, and I feel like I have to reiterate this, the title of the chapter is The New Yonko. I don't think anybody's interested in One Piece Film Red right now. I'm sure it'll be great, but I don't think anyone's really focusing on that. And I don't think certainly anybody's focusing on a video game that may be at the end of the day. You guys want to know who the new Yonko are, so let's dive right in. Now, okay, in a chapter like this, you gotta start off at the Holy Land of Mariejois in the Room of Authority at Castle Pangaea with the Gorosei, right? You have to start off the chapter with that. And I love how it's basically like the Castle Pangaea is turning into like the Daily Bugle from Spider-Man basically now, where you have the Gorosei like lodging complaints and stuff. It's just like, what is this in my newspaper? Spider-Man is a hero? That's not true. I didn't want these pictures in my paper. What's going on here? It's like, just get J.K. Simmons in for this, playing one of the Gorosei or whatever. So, they're calling up the Marines, I guess. Now, this brings a few questions up, exactly how the World Economic Journal is spread across the world, like how it is printed, right? Because up until now, we just assumed that Morgan's was in control of everything. Morgan's had his home headquarters, like, was like a giant teapot that, like, the seagulls, the news crew would, like, carry around to different locations, and he controlled how the newspaper was sent out to the world. But here, the Gorosei are calling the Marines, implying implying that the Marines maybe have some influence in like the actual printing of it or whatever. Or maybe they're just calling the Marines to be like, hey, you need to shut this down, okay? It just seems a little strange that the Gorosei and like the government at large would just tell Morgans to like, yeah, just make sure to print what we tell you to. You're gonna have all the power, you know, you're gonna have all the printing presses and the means to spread it to the world, so you can honestly print whatever you want and we can't stop you, but make sure to print what we tell you to, you know, like our propaganda, the world government propaganda, right? It just doesn't make a lot of sense that they would give Morgans like that much power on his own. Like, you think the Marines would be working very closely to Morgans to make sure he doesn't step out of bounds. Although you might also think of it like this, for the most part, for the last few years, Morgans has been playing by the rules. He's been taking those kickbacks from the government and basically, you know, like the money in order to be like, all right, I guess I'll print whatever the government wants me to print because they're paying me pretty well to do so, right? But in the last few years, you know, Morgans is a journalist through and through, ladies and gentlemen, okay? In the last few years, we've had this new era changing ever since Marineford. A lot of crazy stuff is happening. Morgans is like, on my honor as a journalist, I'll print the most sensationalist news ever. Because honestly, in this point, it's like the government's perspective on what they want printed is just not as interesting as what's actually happening in the world. And Morgans is like, I'm gonna go ahead with this. You know, I don't even know, like, okay, Morgans is a very greedy bird, okay? We've already established this. He's like the CEO of big news, basically. Big news in One Piece, right? But he also, I think, just really loves the fact of how crazy the world is and spreading that news to the people, okay? So he is a little bit of like a journalist. He's like, he'll take a lot of money. He's not gonna say no to that. But he's like, man, all this crazy crap happening in the world, Kaido, Big Mom being defeated by these new upstarts, you know, from like the next generation. This is amazing. I gotta print this. You know, I don't care what you tell me. I don't care how much you pay me. I am printing this story, okay? So here's something though that's just thrown in that like I spent an extra 35 minutes researching. So one of the Marines, we have the Gorosei radioing the Marines. It's like, hey, we didn't tell you to print that image of Luffy. Also, we told you to remove the D from his name on his wanted poster, you know. And apparently, we haven't seen the papers yet. We haven't seen the new wanted posters of Luffy yet. But apparently, it's using an image that the Gorosei don't want them to be using. And also, it still includes the D. Now, you can't just remove the D, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, I think if they would have done that, that would have just drawn more attention to, it's like, okay, wait a second. He was Monkey D. Luffy last time the wanted posters were issued, but now he's just Monkey Luffy. What's going on here? You know what I mean? Honestly, that brings up a larger question of like, if the government is already afraid of like the Will of D or the Clan of D because its connections to Joy Boy and like the Gumu Gumu no Mi and the Sun God Fruit and everything, why would you even, like, anybody that pops up with the Will of D that becomes a pirate, why would you even print the D initial to begin with? Like, even if the D initial is not the Will of D, even if like there's just a random pirate from the West Blue and his middle name happens to be Douglas, you know, my name is Benjamin Douglas Smith, pirate of the West Blue. Even then, the wanted poster should not say Ben D. Smith, or what, Ben D. Smith, okay, whatever, that was, yeah, that's a pirate now. Benjamin Douglas Smith, he bends steel bars with his own arms. You know, but even in that situation, he's like, omit the D because, you know, you don't want the Will of D or the Clan of D to spread around the world. You don't want people to know they're still around, right? Why do you think Roger, oh, okay, well, okay, on this particular wanted poster, it says Gold D. Roger, but I think in the actual story, it was just Gold Roger, right? Because that way there's like, oh, the D's not in his name. But then Monkey D. Luffy pops up in the East and he's like, well, he has the D in his name, but it's probably not related. No one will notice. Just throw it there on the wanted poster. Yeah, the Gorosei, you can't back up now. You can't unring this bell. You know what I mean? Like, it's already happening. Anyway, I love how we're like, you know, 10 minutes into the review and I'm still only on the first 2 panels of this chapter. This is gonna be a long one. Go grab some snacks. Okay, so they're complaining to the Marines, and the Marine is like, well, wait a second, we didn't get that order. In fact, our orders, like the picture that you told us to use, was given to us directly by the member of the Cypher Pool Zero, okay? So there's some stuff to unpack here. First and foremost, though, we find out the name of this dude. We find out the name of the flower lanky guy from, you know, Onigashima, the one dude that managed to get out alive, okay? And his name is Guernica, okay? I believe that's how it's pronounced. And the origin of that is, like, I had to do research on this. I just love One Piece because it's like Oda can just throw in one random name of one random character that's probably not going to be super relevant, although who knows, we'll see in a second. And it's like, okay, I gotta go do research now on why his name is that. And I ended up researching Pablo Picasso and like World War II era Germany and Spain. Okay, it's just like, yeah, because Guernica is the name of a famous painting, a Cubist surrealist painting done by Pablo Picasso, and Guernica is the name of a town in northern Spain, or like the region of Spain where that was like bombed by Germany in 1937. Go and read more about it because you can imagine there's a lot more to this than I could just, you know, say in this review right here, but it's a very fascinating like story about how the piece of art came to be, right? It was basically like Germany's like drills for what would later become the Blitzkrieg of London during World War II, okay? And Pablo Picasso, being Spanish, you know, he was asked, you know, to like draw a painting, and he came up with Guernica, all right, which is one of the most famous paintings he's ever done. Now, I'm not like a fine art like researcher guy, okay? Honestly, I didn't even know Pablo Picasso was Spanish. I just found this out, but I'm reading a lot about him. He seems like an interesting fella. It's just that I'm not really into like studying great artists or whatever. Van Gogh would probably be my favorite. I have like some art books from him, but that's like it, okay? But I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta read a lot about Pablo Picasso today. And I started, and I guess I'll continue with that now. It's just like, thank you, Oda, for giving me more stuff to learn about, okay? That's what One Piece really comes down to. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get across here is that this member of the Cypher Pool Zero's name is Guernica, after a famous painting by Pablo Picasso, who is a Spanish artist, okay? Now, what about the other member, the dude with the tribal mask that was a member of Cypher Pool Zero that was killed by Izo, okay? His name was Maha. And it's like, all right. And so it turns out that there is another famous Spanish artist, Goya, that drew a painting. There's two different paintings, and I can only show you one for obvious reasons. One is called The Nude Maha, and one is called The Clothed Maha. Okay, I will show you the clothed version, all right? In case you're curious about what the nude version is like, picture this woman, the exact same position except without clothing, and that is the nude version. And in the museum where these paintings hang, they are side by side of one another, okay? The clothed version and the nude version, okay? And so the clothed Maha, okay, so that is a reference to Maha's name, okay? So it seems that these Cypher Pool Zero agents, the three that were at Wano, are named after famous paintings by Spanish artists, all right? So Guernica, drawn by Pablo Picasso, and the clothed Maha and the nude Maha, drawn by, I think his name was Francisco Goya. Hold on, let me check really quick. I have notes. Yeah, Francisco Goya. Yeah, that was his name. That was his name. I know. Okay, all right. So there you go. And now, as for the bowler hat dude, Fred, no idea. There's probably a lot of other really famous pieces of art drawn by Spanish artists. So you can make a guess as to what his name would be. I don't know, but it's probably following in the same theme. All right, we all good? Okay. Well, we're only on the third panel now, so I guess we should probably get moving. Okay. All right. So we have Gorbachev, the dude in the Goro state that has the huge mustache and the birthmark, and he's like, reprint it. What was the Cypher Pool Zero doing? We didn't tell them to use that picture. Reprint it at once. Stop the presses. I hear there are presses and that you can stop them. And the Marines are like, I'm sorry, we've been trying to contact the printing office, but they just won't pick up, sir. We don't know what to do. We've called their number like 7 times. We've left several voicemails. They will not pick up, sir. The paper is spreading across the world. Cut to Morgans, who's just having an amazing time. He's like, what a mystifying experience. This is the moment where Morgans busts out into a song. This is the moment where he has like a Scar moment from The Lion King, where he's like, I love the news, I love the news, I love the news, and then a backing choir, big news, 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 and it is like the papers are falling and the seagulls are flying all over the place in a choreographed dance number as he's like dancing in the middle of his great hall of like, this is the most wonderful time to be alive when big news comes to town. You know, that's him, okay? He's having fun with this shit. So he mentions the Cypher Pole's transmission from Wano, so Guernica, this dude, his transmission ended right after they spotted Big Mom's ship. All right, so we're getting some setup on what happened with Big Mom's crew, but more importantly, it seems like Guernica was actually working with Morgans, meaning we have a member of Cypher Pole Zero double-crossing the Gorosei. That is a huge deal. Now, I don't know whether or not like Guernica was like always a double agent for Morgans right from the very beginning, or if it's just like after everything that happened at Onigashima and the Gorosei literally ordering, you know, the bowler hat dude to go and die, and then Maha also died, and then, because you had a moment with Guernica, and he's like, before he left, he was kind of like just staring out the window of the indestructible waiting room, and he was just like, you know, just in deep in thought. And we learn a lot about the Cypher Pole Zero agents from the last arc. You know, they're not just mindless, you know, brainwashed servants of the Tenryubito or whatever. They're still agents. They're the best at what they do. They're still assassins, and they'll follow orders. Like the bowler hat dude followed orders to the end, and he got killed by Kaido. By the way, I have the 4 previous Yonko up here just as like a reference, you know, like get one last look at the Yonko that as we knew them before they changed in this chapter. So we all understood that, but, you know, so maybe after the death of the bowler hat dude and the death of Maha, Guernica was just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. You know, like the government, screw them. You know, those are 2 of my best friends that we worked together for years and years, and the government basically just ordered them to die. And for what? For what at the end of the day? So, you know, we don't get paid enough for this shit. And so he got in touch with Morgans and is like, hey, you want to know the big scoop of what happened in Wano? You want to know what really happened in Onigashima? Okay, here's an image of Luffy in his awakened form. Morgans is like, what? And just like, oh, and here's some other information that's like classified by Cypher Pole Zero. And he's like, what? Oh, I'm gonna print this, thank you. And so, yeah, but the way it does seem to imply is that, well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if it's like Morgans had a long-term relationship with the Cypher Pole Zero agents, or if this was something that they just reported to him like as like, hey, I'm working with you now. The government pissed me off. And, you know, Morgans is like, okay. You know, I'm not sure how this went, but apparently the Cypher Pole Zero ship was attacked by Big Mom's ship, or the Big Mom ship showed up on the horizon, and they were like, okay, and the transmission cut out. So we're gonna follow up on what's been happening with like Smoothie and Montdor and everybody else that was on Big Mom's ship that we haven't really addressed. So we'll find out a little bit more about how that went there. But Morgans just goes on to say that like the gears will not stop turning. You know, I'm not gonna let the government print their boring propaganda compared to what's actually happening in the world, okay? I am a journalist! You know, so that's what's going on here. So this information is getting out. There's no question about that. So now we cut to a double-page spread where we see Morgans being like, this is like a live theater play. I can't stop. You know, this is basically our reaction through Morgans, right? Where this is no longer just, you know, printed media or whatever. Like, oh, in Onigashima today, Kaido and Big Mom were defeated. No, it's like a live stage show or something from Morgan's perspective. So he's having so much fun with it. Double-page spread. We see the newspapers spreading all across the world at breakneck speeds. Everybody's reading the paper, and we see here the 3 new wanted posters for Luffy, Kid, and Law. Now, unfortunately, we do not get the updated bounties for all the members of the Straw Hats, unfortunately, but that's okay. We get these wanted posters for the captains of the crews, and we get one more at the end of the chapter. We're gonna wait for that, okay? But suffice to say, Luffy, Kid, and Law all now have the exact same bounty of 3 billion berries. Okay, so a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be. I just kept going highball with it, and I'm like, Luffy's gonna be 5 billion, why not? I never even really talked much about Kid and Law. I'm just like, whatever, Luffy's gonna be the highest. So no, Luffy, Kid, and Law all have the same. It's all 3 billion. They were all credited with taking out Big Mom and Kaido. See, that's a factor, though, I was considering, like, what if Luffy ended up getting all of the credit? Like, if it was like, yes, Luffy has defeated Kaido and Big Mom, and yeah, Law and Kid were also there in the background. I guess they helped a little bit, but it was mostly Luffy that did both of them in, right? Okay, so that was clearly not the case. The story that the Cypher Poll leaked to Morgans clearly did say that, like, you know, probably like Law and Kid together took out Big Mom, Luffy took out Kaido. Luffy's new wanted poster also includes him in his Gear 5th state, okay? You know, doing the laughing of like, ha ha ha, this is so much fun, Kaido, right? So that means either the Cypher Poll agent or most likely Apu snapped a picture of Luffy while he was in his awakened form, and so now the whole world knows about it. And you can see why the Gorosei were freaking out, okay? Even though, like, most of the people in the world probably have no idea what's going on here. They'll see this picture of Luffy, you know, with the white hair and the steam and everything, and just being like, did Luffy dye his hair? What happened to his straw hat? You know, his straw hat's not even in the picture anymore, right? So Luffy might actually be upset about this. I don't know. Luffy might not even remember what he looked like. So if Luffy looks at the wanted poster, he might be like, who's that? You know, maybe actually. Well, we see him look at it later and we see the eyes pop out of his skull, so maybe. But anyway, yeah, Kid's new wanted poster, by the way, looks so epic. It looks the most epic out of the 3, I'm sorry. And that's for a lot of people that were like, you know, Luffy's at like 1.5 billion, Kid was at like 400 something million, and then Law was at 500 million, right? So it's like Luffy had like a 1 billion berry bounty lead on both Kid and Law, and so I think people were maybe a little bit upset over that, or some people were like, you know, that's just because Luffy's just better. But now Oda fixed that in one fell swoop, because they all have the same bounty. They're all on even keel now, okay? But I love Kid's wanted poster. It's just him with like laughing maniacally with his metal arm in frame, just like, ha 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 ha! You know, that's cool. Law's is, I gotta be honest with you, not as cool as his original. So I have Law's original wanted poster here, done by projectwanted.com. Go check it out. But yeah, I thought this one looks so cool, right? It just has Law there, epic. There's like an explosion in the background. Beppo's there. He's got his sword in frame. This one is like a different like angle where he's like holding his sword up, so you see the blade and you see his head, but it's just like kind of obscured by his feathered boa that he wears. So at the end of the day, I just prefer the original, but hey, all 3 captains have 3 billion berries. That's a big deal. So they're not quite on the level of like what Kaido's and Big Mom's bounties or Shanks's bounty were, but all their bounties are now higher than Blackbeard's. Now, Blackbeard's, you know, granted, actually, we see Blackbeard's bounty at the end of the chapter, and I don't think it increased. Hold on, let me just skip to the end really quick. Actually, okay, we don't know what it is. We just see the picture of the 4 Yonko. We see Shanks, we see Blackbeard. Luffy became a new member of the Yonko. I don't think that's really unusual, but there's the last one that I'm gonna save. But we don't get the actual bounties for them except for Luffy, okay? So Shanks's bounty might have been updated. Blackbeard's bounty might have been updated. You know, they might have been getting involved with other things in the world while Wano was going on, you know what I mean? So their bounties might have rised as well. But yeah, so that's the situation with that. Basically, we cut to the Udon port. We cut to the Tokage port where Kid was looking at the paper that Apu gave him, and Kid starts freaking out and just runs away and toward the flower capital. And Apu is just like, you know, why was he leaving? He had that crazy look in his eye. And then so all the Kid pirates are basically like, well, let's follow the captain. Let's go into the flower capital. I hear there's a party today. Let's rock out. And they start all heading toward the flower capital. Law is there just basically being like, things are gonna be getting a little complicated here in the future, right? I mean, I'm sure Law and Kid are happy about it, but they're not happy about the fact they all have the exact same bounty, all right? So Kid most likely ran off to like punch Luffy and try to get rid of him so that he could be the new Yonko, you know what I mean? So anyway, now we cut over to the palace. We cut over to the Flower Capital Palace where we have the, I guess the head chef of the palace there, of the Shogun or whatever, and he is working on this this immaculate meal, right? He has like the banquet hall in the palace, and he's like laying out the trays and the bowls of rice and everything to perfection. If you've ever seen a traditional Japanese tea ceremony, you know everything down to the millimeter has to be perfect, okay? The amount of rice in the bowl, the angle of the chopsticks, the tray and how it's laid out, like everything has to be refined to perfection, which I think is what Oda's going for here, and that very, very particular traditional Japanese style. So this head chef is like, he's basically got like a magnifying glass, and he's like just arranging these trays, these individual trays, like 50 of them in like perfect order, okay? And so finally, he lays all of the trays out in the banquet hall, and he steps out, and he's like, I have put my entire life into this meal. I've been slaving away in this palace cooking for Orochi for 20 years, waiting for the day that the proper shogun will return to Wano. This is a menu that I have envisioned in my dreams for decades. I have finally been able to make it. I have the trays all laid out perfectly, the bowls of rice, the meat dishes, everything laid out perfectly. He walks out into the banquet hall and he's like, I now give to you the greatest meal fit for a shogun. Please enjoy it, the fruits of my labor. And the banquet hall, it pans back. And the only person sitting there is Jinbei. There's like 50 dishes, like 25 on one side, 25 on the other, like parallel. The only person in there is Jinbei. And Jinbei is just, you know what? I love Jinbei. This might be my favorite Jinbei moment, okay? This is great, okay? Where Jinbei's there, he's got some sake next to him, he's sitting there in front of his meal, he's like, this looks delicious, chef, thank you so much. Everybody else left because they didn't want to sit around for 2 hours while you prepared this banquet, because it obviously took so long. And let's be honest here, even despite, I'm sure the food is delicious, but there's not enough food here. Like every person only has like 5 dishes, like there's a bowl of rice and what's all in here. Like he actually goes through the whole menu in the chapter. We'll start off with a course of cloud ear mushrooming daisy soup, a plate of gisei tofu, a bowl of lotus roots. That doesn't sound appealing. You know, like there's all these little like bowls of rice and everything like that. So there's only like 4 or 5 bowls in each tray. Maybe there's like 9 total for like side dishes and rice or whatever. That's not going to be enough for the Straw Hats though. Luffy would devour this entire full course meal in one gulp, you know what I mean? So they all left. They all just left after they heard it was going to be 2 hours until the meal was ready and it wasn't even going to be that much food. So they all booked it. They went out into the festival and they're having fun. They're eating like takoyaki and the yakisoba and everything like that, and they're just enjoying the festival food. Like, give me a corn dog, you know, like all that kind of crap, which does sound more appealing, to be honest with you. You know, growing up out in the country, I like some fair food, you know what I mean? But I love Jinbei here. Jinbei is just like, thank you for all your efforts. Everybody else left, but this seemed like a good meal, so I stayed behind, okay? Because I could tell you worked really hard. Like, imagine if Jinbei left and it was nobody there, and the chef came out and he's like, this is it, my grand full course, and then just nobody, and he's like, oh, come on! So Jinbei was a nice guy. He's like, I'm not gonna, you guys go to the festival, you have fun, I'll catch up with you later. It would be really mean for everybody to leave, and so he's there drinking his sake, eating his meal, and he's just like, yeah, that's just how it goes. I really kind of just want to see the scene of just like the chef getting drunk and just being like, and just talking to Jinbei of like, I made this whole meal, it took me how long it took me to prepare the raw ingredients for this shit, you know? And he's like, I understand, hey, have some sake, let's talk it over, right? And the chef is like, yeah, okay, that sounds like fun, you're a cool guy, Jinbei, I like you, I'm glad you joined the Straw Hats, you care about others' feelings. And Jinbei's like, damn straight I do, let's raise a toast, you know, like, so that was a good moment. I don't know, it's honestly probably the most boring part of the chapter, but I liked it. Okay, so now we cut down to the festival proper, and we just see all of the Straw Hats just barreling down the road, grabbing all the snacks. You know, Luffy's got like, you know, yakisoba, takoyaki. It looks like he's carrying a hot dog, actually. It's not a hot dog. It's like a bowl of like takoyaki. It kind of looked like a hot dog, whatever. Anyway, Chopper is just pigging out on cotton candy. He's like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. He's like eating the cotton candy. Yamato is there also enjoying stuff. What is it? Grilled squid and candy apples. So Otama's really enjoying, you know, the candy apples. That's her favorite meal. And so the festival is just, you know, in full swing, and there's music. We cut over on top of a roof where Brook, you can't see Brook, but he's down here. Brook and Hiyori are doing a duet. They're doing a rock remix rendition of Moon Princess. Okay, so that was the song that Hiyori always played on the shamisen that made her sad, and now it's like, you know, Brook walks up, a rock and roll dancing skeleton with an electric guitar, and just like, how about we add a spin on that song? You know, and then just start rocking out on top of the roof, and that's really awesome. Hiyori has, like, she's basically an idol of Wano now. She's like a singing idol, kind of like Uta's going to be in the movie. Everybody in the crowd is like holding up fans that say Hiyori, like, Hiyori, Hiyori, oh my god, autograph, please! You know, everyone's having fun. And now we cut to the castle basement where we see where Robin is at, okay? And that was... Ooh, that was a concern, because Robin was kind of MIA in the last chapter. We didn't see where she was at, so I was a little bit worried, because, like, everybody wants to capture her pretty much right now. But anyway, we cut to the castle basement, alright? Now, this is the location that Brook went into his soul form during the party with Orochi, and he, like, was, like, you know, scoping out the castle to see what was going on with his soul power so he could phase through walls. And so he mentioned that there was a weird room that had a poneglyph in it, a blue poneglyph, not one of the road poneglyphs, but it had a poneglyph in it, and it was also filled with a bunch of creepy dolls. So Robin, now that the Straw Hats have full run of the castle, now they can go wherever they want, Robin went down into the basement to see the poneglyph, obviously. So she's down there, and there's a bunch of like sword stuff on the walls, and like there's a bunch of these dolls though, these Kokeshi dolls, okay, which are basically like, I'll show pictures of them there. These are the kind of dolls they are, you know, I'm sure you've seen these before in anime. It's like a traditional kind of like Japanese wood sculpted doll, right? And so there's like whole shelves full of these things down there, okay? And we see the poneglyph in the distance, okay? It's right there, right? We see some swords, we see some other stuff, some desks down there, and Robin is just looking at all this stuff, and then Tenguyama Hitetsu begins to walk down the stairs, and he's like, ah, so this is where you were, Nico Robin. You know, you like those dolls, don't you? They're my pride and my loves of the world. You know, they're my one hobby that I truly admire. You also admire their amazing prowess, don't you? And Robin's just looking at the dolls, and she's like, no. Not particularly. They kind of look sort of creepy, honestly. So Tenguyama's like, oh, come on, this is my hobby room. And it's just like, wait, what? What? It's like, okay, first of all, by the way, okay, I'm just gonna spoil it, what it is. It's not spoiling it, it's what happens next. But Tenguyama takes off his mask, which is just a mask. Okay, so he's not an actual Tengu, takes it off, and it's revealed he is actually Kozuki Sukiyaki. Okay, he is the father of Odin. Okay, so he was the previous shogun before Odin, all right? Now, a lot of things here. Number one, this is actually an old theory. I think Artur mentioned this. I think I did a video about it too, like a few years back, okay? But the thing that started to get people thinking about this, there were two things. Number one, when Sukiyaki first appeared in the anime, his voice actor was the same voice actor as Tenguyama. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything in and of itself, because, you know, they reuse voice actors for different roles in One Piece. It's a big story, but it's a little bit of a hint there. Also, there was a mention that when Tenguyama first appeared, he was like, I am Tenguyama Hitetsu, prized swordsmith, and also collector of Kokeshi dolls. Okay, so he mentioned that at the beginning. It was just such an unimportant thing that he brought up at the very beginning of Wano that I forgot about it, and I think a lot of people forgot about it. But then it's like, wait a second, he collects Kokeshi dolls, and Brook mentions that there was a bunch of Kokeshi dolls in the basement of the Flower Capital Palace, the Royal Palace, where there was a poneglyph. I think, okay, now you're starting to connect the dots, okay? Also, Tenguyama was mentioned to be like in his late 80s in one of the Vivre cards, which would put him around the age of Sukiyaki, okay? So, yes, Sukiyaki is alive, he's right here, okay? And so Robin is just like, so you're Momo's grandfather. And he's like, that is correct. And he's like, are you going to tell him? And he's like, no, I have not told him. And I also don't plan to do in the future. I don't even know how I would begin to explain that. I mean, my son died, and I couldn't do anything about it, and I couldn't even help this country in any meaningful way. I don't think I could face him. You know, and I'm just like, it's that typical, like, Wano samurai pride sort of thing that I think's getting involved here. It's like, honestly, I think, you know, Sukiyaki, go over to Momo and say that you're his grandpa. I think he would be happy that he doesn't have a dad, he doesn't have a mom, and his, like, closest living relative, other than Hiyori, his closest living relative is still alive, and he's just like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna tell him I'm his grandpa. I'm just like, oh, come on, just go. All right, you know, like, the kid has been through enough, all right? He deserves to know his pappy is still alive, all right? It's like, you're my pappy? It's just like, yes, I am. It's like, oh, it's just like, okay. I don't even, Momo has ever even met Sukiyaki. No, he never did, because he was born on Roger's ship, or he was born at sea on Whitebeard or Roger's ship, because that's when Odin met Toki. And by the time they got back to Wano, Sukiyaki was also apparently dead at that point, so they didn't meet him there. So yeah, I guess Momo and Hiyori both never met him. So yeah, that's sad, but okay. Anyway, what's going on with this? So, Sukiyaki explains that, like, okay, when Orochi came to power, he was basically locked up in his hobby room, in this rec room that's in the basement of the capital, which also happens to have a damn poneglyph in it, okay? So Orochi just locked him up in there. And then he mentions, like, oh, he also mentions that, like, oh yeah, collecting these Kokeshi dolls, that's really my major hobby, but swordsmithing is just, like, a side thing that I was sort of good at. Remember, Tenguyama, or, you know, Sukiyaki in this instance, he's the dude, hold on, I have it somewhere, yeah, right here. He's the dude that forged the Sandai. So he made this sword. He made the sword as one of Zoro's swords, okay? And he's like, yeah, I know I make swords, but honestly, my real hobby is collecting figurines, okay? So Sukiyaki is an otaku, basically. I get it. It's okay. I have a whole shelf of sexy anime girl figurines over there. I get it, okay? No, I understand. You want to see them, by the way? I'm just like, okay, so this one is just like, okay. So, that was that. Now, I still have a few questions here, though, regarding this, okay? So, I was always led to assume that Orochi and Higurashi and Seimaru, like, poisoned Sukiyaki, right? Like, they poisoned him because he was, like, really sick when Odin visited. He was, like, coughing and really ill. So I thought Orochi had pulled, like, a Dio Brando and was, like, poisoning, you know? He's like, I'm poisoning Sukiyaki. And, oh, he's dead. I guess I'm the Shogun now, you know? Something like that. So I guess at some point, I don't know what happened, I guess something may have happened where instead of being killed by poison, they threw him into, like, the basement of the Capitol, and then they just like, stay down there, old man, and then just lock the door. And then at some point he snuck out, he escaped from the rec room and got out into Wano, but he mentions by that point, you know, Odin had already died, the country had already fell into ruin, I was like a disheveled old man, like what could I have done at that point? So I even contemplated committing seppuku at the time to just end it, and I decided to live on, and that's eventually he meets Otama and tries to give hope to the people that he could. Keep in mind, he also still has the sword, you know, his famed sword. I don't know if he made that sword, like the one with the flower, the leaf on the hilt, or the guard. I don't know if he made that after he escaped or before, but, you know, I'm assuming that might have been after, because why would they, like, well, we see the hobby room and we see there's swords and stuff down there, so I guess Orochi was nice enough to let him to continue his hobbies. You know, it's just like, it's like, I am Lord Orochi! I will now lock you into the basement, old man! He's like, can I please keep collecting Kokeshi dolls and building swords? I don't care! Pfft, stupid old man! You know, it's just like, whatever. Okay, so what I think maybe happened was this. What if it was like Sukiyaki, because he's not an idiot. What if Sukiyaki started to catch on to Orochi's, like, deeds? Especially since that's kind of what Orochi's grandfather did. You know, he was poisoning the other daimyos, right? So what if Sukiyaki one day, he's, like, sick, and he's like, wait a second. I'm thinking Orochi might be poisoning me. But by that point, maybe Orochi got the best of him or snuck up on him, like Higurashi was there. Maybe Higurashi transformed into someone to, like, fool Sukiyaki, and then, like, just pushed him down the stairs. And just, oh, damn, oh, my hip, ow! And then, like, just locked the door behind him. Maybe they did something like that. I still don't know how he managed to escape, but he did, so that's a thing. But there's a couple of more, like, pieces of that story I'd like to know about, you know what I mean? But at any rate, that's not the main focus of this conversation. The main focus is that Robin actually interrupts him. You know, he's in the middle of telling his life story of just like, I was trapped in this hobby room, collecting dolls and making swords. After I escaped, I even contemplated ending it all. But then the sad part of the story, and then Robin is just like, Tengu-san, Pluton's in this country, right? It's like, I don't mean to interrupt your life story. It sounds very tragic, but I still have questions about that. But one of the ancient weapons is literally in this nation, right? Like the giant battleship that can apparently obliterate an island with a single shot of a cannon, okay? Is it here or is it not? And then, you know, because Robin mentions, like, the poneglyph at Alabasta mentioned it was here, all right? Now, this was also something that was up for debate whether or not, and I think it was already confirmed that Pluton was not in Alabasta. It was the same situation like the poneglyph at Sky Island mentioned Poseidon, but it wasn't there. It was at Fishman Island. And the poneglyph at Alabasta talked about Pluton, but it wasn't there in Alabasta. Its location was given as Wano. Also, by the way, do you like the opposites of like where the ancient weapons are said to be and where they actually are? Because like Sky Island, 10,000 meters up, that's where the poneglyph was that mentions Poseidon is located 10,000 meters down at Fishman Island. And then Alabasta, a nation of desert, you know, mentions Pluton on the other side of the world, in the New World, in Wano, which is an island that's like surrounded, well, it's literally on a plateau surrounded by water, that like the waterfalls that flow off the island, okay? I don't know if that was intentional, but I just noticed that. Which also makes me think that the last ancient weapon, the sky weapon, Uranos, might actually be mentioned like somewhere underground. Like there's a cave or something underground, maybe in the Red Line or something, and it mentions that like, yeah, Uranos is located here on the opposite side or something like that, or someplace really high up, or maybe it's somewhere high up and it's located further down. I don't know, all right? Uranos is the god of the sky, so I would assume, like, so Poseidon is the god of the seas, and Poseidon is located at Fishman Island in the bottom of the sea. So it would mention that Uranos would be in the sky, which means the poneglyph that mentions it might be under the ground. But Robin already knew about the name of Uranos when she was talking to Neptune. So maybe that was one of the poneglyphs she found when she was a little kid, because she found a few other poneglyphs. Maybe that was the poneglyph at Ohara. That actually is interesting. It could be. It might have been the poneglyph in the basement of the Tree of Knowledge. Talks about, oh, that would be perfect, because that poneglyph was in the roots of the Tree of Knowledge. So what better place to be like, okay, we're underground, literally in the roots of a giant tree, and here's a poneglyph talking about a weapon that's in the sky. There you go. So I'm pretty sure Robin now knows where every single ancient weapon is, okay? So anyway, she asks Sukiyaki or Tengu-yama, like, Pluton's here, isn't it? And Tengu-yama is like, indeed, it is here. We cut away, so it's like, all right, we don't find out more about that, but it was very ominous and good point, okay? Also, you know, props to Robin for just skipping through Tengu-yama's sad story and just be like, okay, listen, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? We just want to know where the ancient weapons are. We've been reading this story for 20 years. Now, where is it? You know, it's just like, okay, it's here, yeah. Maybe it's under Mount Fuji, the place that still has no relevance that we've never really talked about yet. Maybe it's under the mountain or whatever. Maybe it's, okay, you know what? The Kibi region has really not been referenced at all, has not really had anything important there. So maybe the Pluton, the ancient weapon, is in Kibi. If it's talked about, it is supposed to be this giant warship that was built in Water 7. It has, like, blueprints to it. So there's the whole debate of, like, what if all the ancient weapons are, like, people? Like Shirahoshi. You know, Shirahoshi is a living person that is an ancient weapon, okay? What if all the ancient weapons are like that? And it's like, okay, well, there's definitely real blueprints for Pluton. Like, they exist. Frankie had them. He showed them to Kaku and to Lucci very briefly, and they recognized them as, like, actual blueprints. And, you know, and Tom had them as actual blueprints. So it is some kind of machine that can be built. Maybe it needs, like, a certain person to pilot it, but it can be built as a machine, as, like, a war machine, okay? So that's just the thing there. I also also don't think it would be docked at just a random port in Wano, you know, because there's a lot of ports in Wano that aren't used, and there's the Mogura port underground. But I feel like if this was Pluton, the ancient weapon from the Void Century, you wouldn't just keep it docked at the shore. You know, it'd probably be on a dry dock in the ground, or maybe under a temple or something. You know, some way to keep it out from prying eyes, essentially. So it's here, though. It's in Wano. Might also reference what Big Mom was saying, like, you know, it's here in Wano, isn't it? You know, maybe it was maybe the ancient weapons are part of what the One Piece is. Like, all together, they make part of what One Piece is. I don't know. So now, we cut over to the Udon Prison, where we see a bunch of the prisoners, or the guards of the prisoners, as Babanuki as well, just on the ground, just drained. And it is a brutal scene. We see Babanuki on the ground, like, all shriveled up, like Crocodile attacked him, basically. Like, oh! And then all the guards are just impaled by these roots. And it's just like, they're dead. Like, they're straight up dead, okay? And then we have King and Queen here, who are getting, like, they're, like, it's like something from, like, I don't know, like, some alien plant or some shit, like, stabbed them and is, like, draining them from their life energy, and they're all getting all wrinkled and shriveled up. King still looks pretty okay. King is, like, maintaining his hotness. It's just like, you cannot drain me, you know. But Queen, on the other hand, is not looking too hot. Queen is losing a lot of weight here, and it's like, wait, what are you doing, you fool? You can't let Queen get thin. He'll be so hot, he'll destroy the world. Zuma, 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 Zuma. At least he finally achieved his final form. But no, it's not looking too good. They are losing a lot of blood and moisture or whatever, and they're like, no! And then we cut over to Admiral Green Bull. Admiral Green Bull, Ryo Kugyu. His real name is Aramaki, okay? Aramaki. There's an anime character that is named Aramaki. I can't think of one, though, but it does ring a bell. Somebody let me know. There's probably a few anime characters named Aramaki, but I've heard that before in another anime. Anyway, so we see him there. His ability, we don't get the name of his devil fruit, but once again, it's something related to plants and nature. Probably just the nature fruit, or the tree fruit, or whatever. He's able to turn his fingers into, like, roots, with, like, you know, stabby points at the end of them. Stabby points, yeah. Like syringes. And he can, like, impale people, and then he sucks out their nutrients, and that explains why he doesn't need to eat. Maybe he does get energy through photosynthesis, maybe, but this is mostly how he does it. And he can just, like, go up to any living thing, it seems, animal or human or whatever, and just stab them with his fingers, and just, like... Ah, yes, I have rejuvenated myself. Okay, and that's where he gets energy. He can also drink things, so he has, like, there's, like, a barrel of booze there. So he stabs the barrel of booze with one of his fingers, and he, like, sucks the booze or the sake out of his, out through his finger roots, or whatever you want to call them, and he gets them into his body, and he starts getting like, oh, man, this booze sucks. You should have aged it longer, and he, like, throws it to the ground, okay? So, we get a full view of the kind of guy that Aramaki, that Green Bull, is, okay? And let me just say, I made a video about him earlier this week, and I was talking about maybe he's like Fujitora, and he's kind of a nice guy, and he wants to help people. I mean, he's a Marine, so, I mean, like, if he encountered, like, innocent civilians, he might help them out, but if you were thinking he was more along, like, Aokiji's sense of morals... no, I'm sorry. Because it's mentioned here that he even says, he's like, he calls for a battleship, he calls for a warship. He's like, hey, bring a warship over here. And they're like, oh, Admiral Green Bull, hi. And he's like, no, don't tell Sakazuki about what I'm doing, just get a warship over here, stat. He's like, oh, okay, click. And then he goes on to say, I've always dug Sakazuki's style. No half measures. No half measures, Walter. No half measures. I'm itching to get his approval. Okay, so, this is actually really brilliant on Oda's part. We have 2 new admirals that are added to the Marines, and then Aokiji leaves, and then Sakazuki is promoted, okay? We have Fujitora, Isho, who is more in line with the moral justice of Aokiji on that end of things. Then we have Kizaru, who's like right in the middle with his unclear justice. And then we have Aramaki, or Green Bull, who is way more in line with Sakazuki's line of justice. And he even mentions, he's like, yeah, I like Sakazuki. No half measures. He takes full measures. Wipes out all the pirates. Absolute justice. I want to get his approval. So, we are literally dealing here, now we don't have to just deal with Sakazuki. We also now have to deal with, like, a Sakazuki fanboy that wants to be just like him. That's a problem, if not more dangerous when you actually think about it, okay? So now he will do anything to get the approval of Akainu, and I don't think I need to explain to you the kind of approval that, you know, Sakazuki is like, oh, you wiped out every single pirate and brutally murdered every one of them on Wano. Good job, Aramaki. You know, I knew like, Sakazuki goes up, gives him a hug, and just like, yeah, you were like the son I never had, you know? That's the kind of stuff that would impress Sakazuki. So, this isn't good, okay? The full view of Green Bull. He's kind of like a thin body. In typical One Piece fashion, he is completely shredded, you know? It's just like, yeah, he's got pretty cool hair. He's got sunglasses on. Or, actually, I don't know if they're sunglasses, because we see a close-up of his face, and it's just, we see his eyes. And maybe this is just like the silhouette or something. Or maybe he takes the sunglasses off or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, he's there. He's got a cigarette in his mouth. He's smoking. His, you know, fingers, as I said, turn into roots, basically, where he's, like, stabbing a bunch of things. He's stabbing King and Queen and sucking out their nutrients. He has another one that's stabbing a barrel of sake. He has the other ones that are stabbing all the guards. So he can make dozens of these things, okay? This guy is actually truly terrifying. I hope I'm not downplaying this. This guy might be the most terrifying admiral right now. I mean, Kizaru can move at like the speed of light and shit. That's a bad thing. And Fujitora has gravity powers. But this guy, in terms of like one-on-one combat or just taking on a group of people at once, this guy is terrifying. And also, there might be a thing where it's like he gets cut or stabbed and he might just be able to like stab the ground or suck the nutrients out of a tree or something and like heal himself, okay? This guy might be insanely difficult to kill. Even if you cut him in half, he might just like, you know, like regrow. Like he might have like plant cells or something, you know? Like plant cells work differently than animal cells and stuff. Like if you cut like the stalk of a plant down, it doesn't just die, it could grow all the way back, right? So it might be something like that. Like this guy might be insanely hard to kill, and it might be very, like his attacks just like reach out and just, if they stab you, they sucks out your moisture and your nutrients and you just shrivel up and you can't fight anymore. This guy is terrifying, okay? Anyway, so he's there. He has a sword on his hip. He has a tattoo on his torso, right? And the tattoo it's in kanji. One of the kanjis is death. I read about what it is, and it's basically it's a reference to like two lovers both like dying side by side. There's a word here that would work better for this, but I don't know if that word is YouTube approved, but it's basically what seppuku means, okay? So it's like two lovers side by side going to the next world together, okay? It's just like, yeah, it's kind of like that. That's what the reference of the kanji are. Actually, made me remember Shunsui's Bankai from Bleach. If you got up to that point in the story with his final move in his Bankai, kind of reminiscent of that a little bit. I think there's a reference. I think it is a reference to like a Rakugo play on Aramaki's tattoo, okay? So look into more of that later. That'll be in another video. This video is already long enough here, but we're almost at the end. So we have a scene here where he's just walking away from the prison, and he's defeated King and Queen, and he even mentions, like, you know, I couldn't call myself an admiral of HQ if some commanders of some Yonko were able to take me out. Now, keep in mind, Queen and King were just recently beaten up pretty bad by Zoro and Sanji here, okay? So they definitely weren't at full power, but the way that Green Bull is depicted here and his strength and how easy, I mean, like, yeah, Queen and King might not be at full power, but they're still no pushovers, okay? And Aramaki seems to have no problem taking them out here. So it makes me seriously wonder, like, even if King and Queen were at full power, Green Bull might have still been able to take them out with very minimal problems here. Even just look at Marco. Marco was able to hold off King and Queen at full power back at the festival hall. And it took a lot out of him, and he was a little bit out of practice, but he was able to do it. And then Aramaki's just walking in and just basically one-shots each of them. So that's a big deal. I feel bad for King. I don't really care about Queen too much, but I kind of wanted King to stay in the story and like explain some stuff involving the Lunarians and shit, but he might still. I mean, they're probably not dead, but, you know, they're not looking too good. So Green Bull walks away, and he's looking at the wanted posters. And he basically says, he's like, I'm sure I'll earn Sakazuki's approval if I can bring him the head of Straw Hat Luffy. That's how I'll get in his good graces. He'll ruffle my hair and be like, you know, attaboy, Green Bull. It's like, yeah. So now we have the objective of Green Bull, to kill Luffy to get his head to bring him back to Sakazuki so he can get approval. This isn't going well, okay? Now we cut back to the festival, and this is a moment I am going to kind of just, you know, not skip over, but it's the festival. It's the end of the arc festival scene, banquet scene for One Piece. I might go into more detail with this later, but I want to get to the end of the chapter here, because it's the big deal, and we still have a lot of stuff to talk about, okay? So, they're all partying. Kid shows up. They're about to launch fireworks, so Kid arrives, and he's about to punch Luffy in the face, like he's charging at him, like, Luffy, Straw Hat, I'm going to take you out here and become the next Yonko! And right before he's about to punch Luffy, Luffy's like, oh, hey there, Eustace, or, you know, Jaggy, or whatever he called him, or whatever. He stretches out his arm, he wraps it around Eustace, and, like, holds him here. He's like, check out this! And then he fires up the fireworks, and they blow up, and it's beautiful. We see, let me just go through everybody right here to see if I'm not missing anything here. So, yeah, they like bear hugs Eustace, and it's just like, yeah, let's have fun here. We see Nami, Shinobu, Sanji, Zoro, Usopp, Denjiro, Frankie, Raizo, Otoko, Kiku's there with a sparkler, that's cute. We see the Minks, we see Carrot, we see Hyogoro there, we see Otama with a candy apple, that's cute. We see Speed there, the Komachio. Oh, I think that's, we see a back, just from the back, we see Kinemon drinking something and with somebody leaning next to him that's like shorter than him. I think that's Osuru. I think that's his wife. She hasn't really been mentioned since, but that is Kinemon's wife. I think so. They've been reunited, and now they're sitting on the porch watching fireworks as the liberation of Wano is properly celebrated. So if that is Osuru, if that is his wife, that's an adorable scene. That's some nice closure there. So anyway, we see the Law Pirates, we see the Heart Pirates there, we see the Kid Pirates there, and then finally, Kid like breaks free of Luffy's grip, and he's just like, get off of me! This is the reason I came here. And he shows Luffy the paper. Luffy's eyes pop out of his skull, and he's just like, what? And he's like, shows him the paper. By the way, something else very important about One Piece, anytime Oda shows a newspaper, pay attention to every picture that's in that newspaper. Even if it's off to the side in a tiny little image that you can barely see, pay attention to the newspapers. They are very important. I only bring this up because somebody messaged me and said, there's a picture of Sabo in one of the newspaper articles, okay? Now, I've been looking at these, and I can't find it. So if somebody else can find it, let me know on what page it's on, and I'll look into it, okay? So I don't know 100%, but that's what somebody said. And I'm like, that is the kind of shit that Oda would do, all right? So yeah, that might be a thing too. But anyway, Luffy's looking at the picture. His eyes pop out of his head, even though he's not in Gear 5th. This is just a thing we're gonna have fun with now. And we finally get to see the 4 new emperors of the world. Are you ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? Da, 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 da. Okay, let's just get to it. All right. All right, Kaido, your time has passed. You were epic while it lasted, but you just couldn't cut it. Big Mom, we've spent a lot of time with you. Yeah, okay. So, we have Shanks here. Red-haired Shanks. Okay, so he's still a Yonko. Same picture he's always had. We still don't know the bounties yet, or like other than Luffy's, we don't know the bounties yet. But he's there. Bounty of 4,048,900,000 if it stays the same. Okay, so Shanks is there. Then, Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach. Somebody else that has the D in their name. Why didn't the government remove that? Whatever. Anyway, bounty, 2,247,600,000. Okay. Now, the next one. Monkey D. Luffy. This is an old wanted poster, obviously, because it just came out in the chapter. I'm not magic. I can't make one like that. But 3 billion from Project Wanted. Thank you. 3 billion now, and he has the image of him in his sun god form, in his sun god Nika form in Gear 5th. Okay, so boom. They're not the same size, but whatever. Boom. Okay, but that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no. We still have one more. You can't have the Yonko without 4 emperors. And the 4th emperor, who is it? Is it Law? Is it Kid? Is it Mihawk? Is it Boa? Is it Gaimon? Was it Chopper? Was it Usopp the whole time? presenting the fourth emperor. Buggy the clown. Buggy! The clown genius, the brilliant jester, the bombastic clown, the man that rose from the bottom of the East with a 15 million berry bounty, the man that clawed his way up to the top, sleeking in and out of the background while all the other major characters seem to be playing their games. Buggy was playing not 4D chess, not 5D chess, not 8D chess. He was playing 69D chess in the background, moving the positions, all for this moment, for him to become a Emperor of the Sea. And that's not even the end of the chapter. Last two panels, we see Aramaki arriving outside the flower capital. He's walking by Onigashima, and he's like, man, those guys know how to throw a damn party. I wish we could be as happy as they are right now. They don't understand just how many problems they've caused. They don't know how much the world is a mess right now because of what they pulled. And Aramaki is strolling casually to the flower capital. As he's walking, fields of flowers and plants and grass are just growing in the wastelands of outside of the flower capital as he's approaching, okay? He's like literally just walking and there's just a path of grass that's being made behind him, okay? So he is doing that. I thought he was going to do that. He's going to bring the life back to Wano. So that actually is helping, okay? But from what he wants and, you know, who he basically wants to impress, that's not good. Okay, this isn't good, ladies and gentlemen. But that's the end of the chapter. Holy crap. Okay, so this is a long review. Okay, this is long. This is over an hour already. There is obviously going to be a lot of follow-ups to this. We're going to have to talk about Green Bull, we're going to have to talk about his devil fruit power, we're going to have to talk about his motives. Then we're going to have to make a video talking about the emperors. But before we get to any of that, I just want to know, what the hell did Buggy do to bullshit his way to becoming an emperor? Because remember, the warlords are no longer warlords. You got Mihawk, you got Boa, you got Weevil, and you got Buggy. And out of all of them, you went with Buggy, okay? Buggy was the one that managed to do something to make it so that he could be an emperor of the sea. I have a theory. This is my theory, at least as it exists currently. So Buggy was escaping Kalibali Island. Stainless was the Marine that got sent to capture him. He was a vice admiral. And he's like, you know, Clown Star Buggy, I'm bringing you in. And Buggy's like, yeah, bring it, Marines. And he was like rallying his crew together while he was going to sneak out the back door. I'm thinking some stupid shit happened where maybe a storm came out of nowhere and just wiped out the Marine fleets, or something occurred, right? While Buggy was trying to escape, like he was like sneaking out the back door in like a little boat, and he's like, Galdino, Alvida, Moji, Kabaji, Richie, let's go, let's get the hell out of here. And they just start getting out of the island, and then at that exact same moment, like, I don't know, a freaking meteor comes out of the sky and like blows up the freaking fleet of the Marines. Stainless might be dead now, or like a giant tidal wave just wipes out the fleet, and then everybody's there and it's just Buggy in this little boat and just, hi. Captain Buggy! You used the power of nature to completely obliterate a Marine warship! You killed like so many Marines! You wiped out a vice admiral! Captain Buggy! Woo! And then Buggy's like, sure. And then like a member of the journal was there, like the World Economic Journal, taking it. Hey there, how you doing? My name is Bill Bottom, and I'm the guy that does the report for the World Economic Times. Captain Buggy, please tell us about this amazing feat. And she's like, well, I used my power to wipe out a Marine vessel. Oh, you don't say. This is a sensational news. This is gonna make headlines, kid. You're gonna be big. You're gonna be a star. And then just walks away. Buggy's like, okay, cool. And just like, yeah. So, yeah, Buggy is now an emperor of the sea. I don't even know what this manga is anymore. Do you know what this manga is? I don't even know what it is anymore. I just want to see more of it. And not as Aramaki walks towards the capital, as we see that finale with the four emperors, we see the rather tragic, not just a break next week, but We are now entering a 4-week break. So I'll tell you what Oda does. Oda knows how to set us up for a good month of discussing and theorizing, if nothing else. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. And like I said, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks at the beginning of July. So this actually works out perfectly for me. I don't have to worry about, like, the reviews coming out. Like, if this came out, like, 2 weeks later when I'm in California, this would have been like, oh my god, I have to review this as much as possible. I'm not here. So this actually worked out for me. But anyway, yeah. This was a long video. Thanks everybody for watching. I will do a lot of follow-ups to this. We'll go into greater detail than I could right now. But I hope you enjoyed. This was an insane chapter. And also, funny, it's chapter 1053, and in chapter 903, we found out Luffy's 1.5 billion. So it's 150 chapters later exactly. I don't know why. That just, you know, it's nice number. You know, it's like 150. It's nice and, you know, even and all that. Okay. Well, anyway, see ya, everybody. You know, I hope, you know, we can survive a month. You know, I survived a month with no One Piece back in the Dark Ages, back between the pre-time skip and post-time skip. I survived a month of that. You could survive it too with no One Piece. It's okay. We'll make it through. And then chapter 1054 will be out like the week of like July 25th, all right? Thanks for watching, everybody. Oda, take a break, get some rest, hang out with the family and the kids, go on a picnic. Whatever you do, you earned it. This was insane. Tekking signing out.